churches also have vision. God deals with a church just as if it was one man, where that church has characteristics, has a calling, has a purpose, has a book written about it in heaven, has a destiny that God pre-wrote and said, this church, here's the reason why this church exists, here's what I want it to do. You're not supposed to just go start your own church. It has to be in the destiny of God. And I believe churches can have a vision where God opens the eyes of the people and they say, this is what we're to be about. This is how we're to use our collective grace. This is what we're to accomplish while we're here. For this generation, you got about a 20-year stretch where you're part of that, where you get to actually be part of fulfilling the vision that God has for that group, for that time, for that city or that place. So what I would say is you should always evaluate when you're looking for a church. You know, this won't be your last church. There'll be a time you'll find another church, I'm sure. You need to evaluate whether the vision of your heart and the vision of that church match. And you should be able to say, I want to be a part of this because they're doing the things that are in my heart. You must be able to give and receive. There must be both. Churches where you're only giving, but you don't receive, that's not healthy. Churches where you're not really able to give, they don't allow it. You're always on the outside looking in, that's not healthy either. You need a place where you can give and receive. But you need to evaluate that church based on what's going on in your own heart. Are they going where you want to go? Are they becoming what you want to become? That's who you fall in with. And there's churches that aren't going anywhere. There's churches that are dead churches. There are churches that have man-made vision. And you'll never be fulfilled if you're part of that. You have to find a church that is driven by a compelling vision that God has shown them. And they're doing something. They're not just congregating. They're actually wanting to do something and be something. And what kind of church are they to be? That's a very, very good question. So when you go to a church, you should start asking some of the people who've been there from the beginning, what's the vision of this church? Where is it going? How is it being prepared for something? And you should be able to ascertain in a short time the vision of the church. And then you say, I'm willing to apply my strength, my grace, my time, my energy into seeing that come to pass. There should be a marriage of your vision and their vision. And if there isn't, you could abide the time there for a short time, but you should be looking for another church. You should find a church that has vision, that's going somewhere, is trying to. They may be in process, they may not be there yet, but you should find a church that's going somewhere. Does that make sense? A church is just like an individual. Like when you read the 7 churches, the 7 letters to the 7 churches of Asia Minor, Jesus writes to those churches as if they were one man that has strengths, that has weaknesses, that has flaws, that has fabulous things that are happening, but they're being judged and treated as if they're an individual. And so our church has strengths, has weaknesses, has characteristics, both good and bad. It has things that it needs to improve on, has a vision, just like I believe God has given an individual vision, that they get a glimpse of what He's destined for them. The idea that God would write a vision for a church that would say, meetings upon meetings, meetings and more meetings, congregate, sit, stand, leave, come and go, have a meal, and that's it. That's the whole vision of the church. That doesn't make sense. There has to be something more than that. There has to be something more than that. There's no way that He could have sat down with a book and wrote meetings, meetings, more meetings. There has to be something more. There has to be something that forms people, that shapes people, that cultivates calling, that cultivates character, that cultivates purpose. There has to be something more than that. Does that make sense?